What's going on, everybody? I am your host, JDM, George Demoya, here with Not a Hockey Market Podcast. What a fucking great week we've had. Week one is in the books, and I am here to bring you up-to-date analysis of what the hell is going on with hockey. We might even have some friends jumping in and out, which is just fucking awesome. But let me just go ahead and get the BS out of the way real quick before we bring in one of our West Coasters. And it's not so much BS, but it's just, got to do our due diligence. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media channels there down below, scrolling. Not a hockey market. Fuck, I can't speak. I'm like Biz. Not a Hockey Market Podcast is a proud member of Podcast City Network and presented by 90 Miles Media. So if you want to find us, go to YouTube, search 90 Miles Media, get everything that is Not a Hockey Market Podcast. Also, make sure you do a search for PCN Final Score. That's our sports show over on Podcast City Network. So, right off the bat, I got to tell you, I'm excited to bring in one of my buddies who plays with us in the fantasy football chat. Let's add him here to the stream. Jacob over from the West Coast. What's going on, Jacob?
Not too much. How are you doing?
Doing good, but I appreciate that you got dressed up for, the show, especially since you decided to get your jersey out.
Yep.
Fucking work outfit here, but you know what? I said the hell with it.
The good thing about work from home is that this can also be my work outfit. So,
Except for Zoom meetings when you got to do that shit, right?
Yeah. So good to be on, and glad to talk hockey. We got a game tonight.
Right.
The good thing about the West Coast is it's only 3:30 now, so I still got a couple things to crank away before I tune in tonight. But playing the Wild, which they're I think they're a team that's on the rebound a little bit, although they've struggled a little out of the gate. There's a lot of satisfaction, I'll say, in the last couple of years when Bruce Boudreau was over there, since he was a former coach of ours at the time. So beating up on him was fun. It's not the same this time around, but they got a couple good players. Kirill coming over from the KHL. Kaprizov is
that rookie has been something
interesting to watch. Yeah, I mean, he's 25 or 26. I don't know if he's eligible for the Rookie of the Year. I think the cutoff is 25, so I don't know how he fits into that. But man, he's going to be interesting for sure.
Oh, absolutely! And just right off the gate, you got probably one of the most anticipated matchups that everyone's talking about is Austin Matthews going up against Connor McDavid at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And it's the first of 9 meetings between these two. But it's interesting. I was looking at the league leaders, and it's funny to me to see, McDavid's up there in points, Draisaitl's up there in points.
Always.
Matthews is up there. But then guess what? Toronto's up there in the standings, and Edmonton is still towards the bottom of the standings.
Yeah, I mean,
come on, man. Get it right. You have one of the best players in the NHL, and you can't find the right team to go with him.
I know. Well, I think some of that's the nature of the cap and how that all works and how much he's eaten up, and him and Draisaitl both. But the Oilers were in the Pacific Division back when that was a thing. Pre-COVID, and I wasn't sold on McDavid till I went and saw him in a playoff game, and Ducks Oilers a couple of years back. I was like, I'll see what it's like to see him in person. And you could visually tell when he stepped on the ice because he is so fast, and it's just unreal to think one player can be that much better than every other player in the top professional league, probably in the world, right? Maybe the KHL is up there, but Jesus, he is unbelievable. But if you're a one-line team, you're a one-line team. And when your third and fourth liners are getting 15, 20 minutes a night, a goal or two against, it goes a long way, so.
Yeah, not to mention no number one goalie over there in Edmonton. Yeah, that's got to be a huge hit. But you know what? You got your Ducks jersey on. I want to talk West Coast hockey and the West Division.
Yep.
So right now, I mean, we're talking early, right? We're talking very early, but I know you're a big Ducks fan, and we understand the Ducks have a good youth coming in. Let's talk about your Ducks a little bit with that youth coming in.
We're still
Max away. Sam Steele, a couple other guys. I mean, Trevor Zegras had a fucking stellar World's Juniors, 27 points, tied the record with Jeremy Roenick.
Yeah.
What do you see out of that young team? What are you looking forward to?
We're in transition. It's no secret. Corey Perry, got bought out last year. He's been kind of floating around. Did well on Dallas last year. Picked it up in the playoffs, which is great to see. As someone that grew up with the Ducks organization, he was really a big part of that whole. There was a period where it wasn't a matter of if the Ducks were going to be in the playoffs. It was how soon were they going to clinch the division? Who are they going to be up against? And we were, kind of cruising in February and March in the regular season. But, that transition is happening. And I think it's happening not as fast as most of the fans out here want. But, fans being fanatical in what they want, they got used to that performance in the mid 2010s and teens and whatnot that, I think we're still 3 to 4 years away from being a good competitive team. I'd say if we break 500 this year, we're happy with that. I don't think we're going to compete for the playoffs. Maybe this year we compete for that final spot in the West Division. But looking who we're up against in the division, you got at the top Vegas, Colorado. Mm-hmm. I think nobody's questioning whether or not they're going to make the playoffs. It's more a matter of how well do they do and what do they look like.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, though? That fourth position, and I said about it in my West Coast preview, that fourth spot, whichever goalie gets hot,
absolutely,
they could really hit that fourth spot. So if John Gibson plays like the John Gibson that we've seen before and he gets hot, the Ducks could surprise.
Yeah,
A lot of people are picking Arizona. They got a very good 1-2 punch with Darcy Kemper and Antti Raanta. And everyone was worried about dipping, but they've looked pretty good.
I think they started their kind of rebuild about 2 or 3 years ahead. So I think when the Ducks fan base really looks at, what do we look like in 2 or 3 years, you've got guys like Clayton Keller on Arizona, who is, a pretty undisputed top liner, or at least top 6, depending on how you mix and match the lines. And you get guys like Phil Kessel who come in who some would say is on the tail end of his career, but he's still putting up points and, biscuits and serving everybody up out there. That's
hot dogs to everybody. It doesn't fucking matter in Arizona, man. Desert dogs.
OEL on the back line, I think he's pretty similar to where Cam Fowler is from a development perspective. If not, OEL, I think is 2 or 3 years older. So again, Fowler is probably going to start to fade a little bit, but it's something where I think that they were a bubble playoff team, that top 24 last year. They put up a pretty good fight. I think the Arizona and us are in similar situations. I think absolutely. I think St. Louis will probably be the third team in the West Division. So, I think Arizona, I think us, I think someone like the Sharks might turn it on late. They have the personnel. I agree with you. They don't have the goaltending to make it happen. But it'll be interesting to see where things kind of shake out. And the Kings are stuck at the bottom. I think that's kind of
they're in a true rebuild. They
are really struggling, and I think Quick is 1 or 2 more groin injuries away from hanging up the skates. And I don't think that they have a good next in line goaltender. Jack Campbell just went up to Toronto because they didn't feel like he was going to be the right guy, and Cal Peterson's next in line, but I don't know that he's much better. So
no, he's not.
Kings are
I don't like San Jose's defense right now either. Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson.
They're aging.
I don't know what's going on with them. They're aging and it's showing fast. I don't know if you saw it I think it was against Arizona. I'm trying to remember now. Karlsson got walked around by some rookie. I mean, and it wasn't even a move. It was pure speed to the outside. And this is a defenseman that was known for closing out speed, just excellent hands on the back end. And all of a sudden he's like disappearing.
I mean, he had that Achilles injury. Was it last year or the year before? And
that must have hurt him bad.
I think he's not the same, and Corey Perry was actually the same way. He blew out his knee about 2 years ago, stepping on a puck in warmups. What a fluky thing. He was out 8 months, came back, wasn't the same, couldn't perform. That's why he ended up getting bought out. But man, I think the Sharks are struggling. I think they're in a better position than LA, but between us and really, I think Arizona is probably the best competition for that fourth position in the division. But like you said, a hot goalie goes a long ways.
For sure.
A kid coming up that might score, 5, 6, 7, 8 goals in a 2 or 3 week span, which I think a number of prospects for any group really could do. That could really shape the division, because the one nuance of this COVID league is, everything is kind of a 4-point game. So you winning 2 points and someone that you're fighting for that playoff position against losing those 2 points, that changes standing.
It's a big swing. It's going to be a big swing.
2 nights in a row. These 2 games in a row, man, it's going to be fun. I think this season ends in May this year, something like late April, early May. It's going to be so much fun to watch. But
for sure, 116 games of straight hockey. I mean, fuck, that's just brilliant. It's like straight money. I love it.
Dream come true.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's my dream come true. So I'm going to look over a couple divisions with you since I got you on. I know you got a beer calling your name pretty soon, but you know what? We'll fly through this. The Mass Mutual East it's like known as Murderer's Row right now. Everyone's calling it the worst division to be in. And it's just fucking brutal, man. I mean, you got Boston looking at 6th in the division right now, and they're one of the better squads. Buffalo, I hate to say it, that's going to be a huge duo in Taylor Hall and Jack Eichel. They're going to put up massive points, and they're not going to even sniff the playoffs.
I think Taylor Hall going to Buffalo is one of the biggest offseason moves this year. Making that decision. Does he turn into a Leon Draisaitl where he immediately jumps to 100 points because he's on one of the best, I think, top 5, top 10 players in the game? Or does he, regress a little bit, maybe ended up on a second line? Maybe he can't find that magic that other players seem to have, the 1A, 1B. Again, we always talk about Crosby, Malkin, all those guys, that they just seem to know where each other are at. If they can click, I think they can move up the standings a little bit. I agree they're probably not a playoff team, but I don't think they're as much of a mess as people are making them out to be. And I think some of this early season, jitters, getting back into the swing of things, I think they might finish probably 5th or 6th. I don't think that they really hit the playoffs, but I think the Devils are going to regress quickly. I think the Islanders are a borderline team. I think Pittsburgh will pull it together towards the end of the season if they can figure out their goaltending situation. It's funny because, you saw Marc-Andre Fleury not perform in the playoffs, so they got rid of him for Murray. Then Murray is not really performing in the playoffs. They're like, all right, get out of here. So then now they got, Yari coming up, Tristan Yari, and he's not exactly doing so hot to start the season. Maybe it's the layoff, but they got to figure something out, especially with this expansion draft coming up, because you have to every team has 2 goalies, and you have to expose the goalie. And if
Vino's not looking that great either at start. It's definitely Crosby's team right there, and Pittsburgh does look like one of those teams. I originally was sold on saying, keep talking shit about Pittsburgh and about Crosby. If you keep talking shit, Crosby's going to get pissed, and the next thing you know, we got to deal with him in the playoffs.
Yep.
But right now, I think he might have bitten off more than he can chew. In that sense, he's going to carry this team, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And you look at Washington right now, the Washington Capitals look lethal as hell.
Yeah.
And their forwards, Jacob Verano is one of my favorite forwards right now, probably because he's on my fantasy football.
Picking it up too. Yeah.
He's been picking it up, and he just continues to progress. He goes from 15 goals one year to 20 to 25. I mean, he just keeps going up and up.
And I like the idea of Chara coming there.
I loved it.
Because I think it gives a lot of the guys who won the cup two years ago something new to play for. Like, let's do this for our boy. Like Ray Bourque had that effect in Colorado and in Boston, where people really looked up to that. Like, look, we've done it before, but we want to do this for this guy that we see as one of the heroes of the game and all that. I think Washington is going to fade a little bit from the top. I don't know that they'll be the first or second seed. I think they might end up 3rd or 4th, but they always find a way to start to put it together at the end of the season. And if they avoid, their kryptonite known as the Pittsburgh Penguins in the playoffs, because Pittsburgh doesn't make it, they might
look out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The team that's surprising me, and early on, I was worried about Philadelphia, to be honest. I was worried about their decor. It was only Ivan Provorov back there and Justin Braun, and I was like, they're young. Maybe they're gonna make some mistakes. And they basically told me, "Fuck you," and we're gonna score as many goals as we possibly can. Travis Konechny has 4,
killing it,
leading the league in goals.
I think the Flyers and the Maple Leafs are really good at hyping their fan base up in October, November, December in a traditional year. So we'll call it January and February in a COVID year, and letting them down come playoff time. So, I think Philly might prove me wrong this year. I do think that they're a little bit grittier. They're a little bit younger. They're a little bit faster than they have been in years past. And maybe this is the year where Philly goes on a run, similar to Washington again 2 years ago, where they always had great regular seasons, but couldn't pull it together in the playoffs. And again, goalie getting hot late, a couple of scorers contributing from unexpected spots in the roster. Philly could be interesting. I think that they're probably also going to fade a little bit. I think the Islanders might rise to take the division here. I think that they've got the pieces in place. I would say if I had to bet, I would put Islanders first. I would put let's see. I think that you're going to have the Capitals in second. I think that makes sense. Boston's going to come up, rise to the occasion. They always seem to turn it on late.
And good news for them. Good news for them. Going to return sooner than expected.
And I think he's so much of their core for sure. He's going to be good. But then that leaves, you got Pittsburgh, you got the Rangers. I think they're going to be doing well. And I think Philly, I think those three are fighting for the final spot. So
absolutely, for sure. And I don't know I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen with Philly losing Sean Couturier for a week and a half.
Yeah.
That's a lot of games in the COVID year. That's the other thing. If you get an unexpected injury to one of your big time guys that's been contributing, especially a player like him, that he does so much. He's such a two-way guy. He will shut down your top unit and he'll chip in offensively. That's going to be a huge hit for him. So Nolan Patrick, no more migraines. Take as much Excedrin migraine as you can fucking have, because you need to step up, kid.
Well, and I'll say this. I think the one advantage that this whole division has is that they're going to be sleeping in their own beds more than any other division. There's no game more than an hour flight away. I think they're going to stay in the cities in between the 1 or 2 day break that they have between the 2 game sets that they're doing. But this team by far is going to have the least fatigue from travel, especially, that Canada division is going to be flying all over the place. It's not much better out west because of the inclusion of Minnesota and St. Louis, which are much further from Southern California than Dallas, who got looped into that central division. I don't know how that happened, but I think that the lack of fatigue in a year where there's so many games in such a short period of time may be a net benefit, and the winner of that Metropolitan Division might be in a good position come playoff time.
Oh, no, for sure. There's no question about it. And speaking of all that travel and all that craziness going back and forth, you look at the Scotia North.
The Timmy Hortons division?
The Timmy Horton division right now, and everyone's talking, in my opinion, about the Montreal Canadiens.
Yep.
They are the ultimate surprise right now out of this division because they are coming at you in waves. Their speed is on all 4 lines. It's Tatar, it's Anderson, it's Suzuki, which, by the way, Vegas, come on, why did you give that kid up? I understand you got in this huge mode of we got to win now.
Yeah.
He's already ready, and he's already taken a huge step. He could have been a bigger piece in that roster.
And I think that's the duopoly that the NHL has right now. Do you go the experience route that I would say Vegas is going? Do you go the youth route, which I think Phoenix pursued? I think Jersey's pursuing. And I think Montreal is another example of that, where they're like, okay, we'll take some prospects. We still got a strong backstop in Carey Price, who's locked down there, gonna, give you your 2.2 goals against average and your 925 save percentage, regardless of what happens on the other end. So if we can find some young, cheap scoring to fill it out will win those 2-1, 3-2 games consistently. Again, we'll see what happens with a little bit of wear and tear over the time. I'm not sure how deep they are beyond the starting lineup. Whereas I think, again, maybe a team like Toronto or Winnipeg that's spent more time in the playoffs and done a little bit more grinding and more polishing on their third and fourth lines in their taxi squad. They might be better seasoned for a longer run, again, where there's a lot of grind, a lot of travel. I thought Vancouver was going to be a lot higher. They looked very strong in the bubble. Maybe they need to send some more strippers to Thatcher Demko's room.
I think so. I think he's been lacking in that area.
Something's happening.
I mean, that's a 1-2 combination that you don't want to face all the time between Holtby and Demko.
Yeah,
both of those guys get into the swing of things. They just got back JT Miller, who's the top line guy. Elias Pettersson has actually been not scoring. He has one assist.
Yep.
He has one assist in 4 games.
He's on my team, so I saw it well in the fantasy result that I was tanking quickly. But I mean, he's another guy. When I saw him in person, I was like, this kid has got a shot that is unreal. And he's not the smooth skater. He's kind of the guy that you don't expect to get around you. And he's not very flashy like an Ovechkin or some of the, even Hall and Draisaitl. He just kind of scores. He's in the right places at the right time, and he's got a right wrister.
He's always in the right spot. That's what I feel like with him. He knows his vision is top notch.
Yep.
And if he gets going, Vancouver will get going, and they're going to chalk up some wins real quick.
Yeah.
A lot of speed on the back end with Nate Schmidt and Quinn Hughes, where they rifle the puck up on the breakaway so fast that you don't know what the hell hit you.
And I think Ottawa is going to surprise some people too. They're starting to click as a group. They're really going to turn it around a little bit, and I think they're going to play the underdog role. I think the Canadians are going to play that role, and I think the Senators are going to come around, and they're going to surprise a few teams. And again, 4-point flip for any single game where you put a nice little win streak together and you get a hot goalie, you could really surprise a couple people. I wouldn't want to be, playing any of these teams in April and May when they're full throttle. And again, a key injury, a COVID exposure or two, those dynamics are going to be interesting to see where it goes. And I don't think any of the Canadian teams have fans right now. If the fan situation starts to come around for some of those teams, I think 1 or 2 of those teams getting even 2, 3, 4, 5,000 fans in the building will also go a long way to tilt it, because it's been quiet for it'll be probably 11 or 12 months for these guys where they're not used to it. And, I think teams like Dallas and Florida and Nashville that are starting to get fans back are starting to get a little bit of momentum from that. So if one of the Canadian cities can start to open up to fans, even if it's only 1,000 fans in the building, that might change some things.
It definitely will change some things. And a couple news notes is that you already got Tim Schutzel for the German player from the Sens. He may not play. Schutzels, or what Brady the Chuck called him in an interview once, Jimmy, because apparently you just start calling him Jimmy for whatever reason. So, I mean, he's going to be out for a little bit, unfortunately, so that doesn't help. But looking at that North Division, one injury, Patrick Laine's been out for a couple games. That's going to hurt the Jets. The Oilers better get to it, because everyone's picking. You cannot have a COVID season and not have a playoff battle between Matthews and McDavid, or better yet, have the Battle of Alberta in the playoffs after 10 games during the regular season. Like, just for us, man. I don't care what you got to do.
Please
go make a trade, find a number one goalie. Just get into the 4 spot. Even if you get wiped out in the first round, I don't care. Just show up, man, because it would be a shame to not have McDavid and Draisaitl on the playoffs.
I mean, I think the one advantage that the Canadian division has, our Timmy Hortons division, is that there is guaranteed to be a Canadian team in the Final Four. I don't
That's
know
true.
if PSN had to pay extra for that to happen because they've been struggling for a little bit kind of as a whole with those teams, but
At least they get one.
One will stay. So
And they only have 7 teams in the division. 4 of them go. So that, once again, another big advantage for these teams to, maybe surprise a few, like the Senators. I mean, that'd be a huge surprise. Even Montreal right now would be a surprise, even though right now I'm looking at them going, holy shit, they look good.
Looks can be deceiving in October, November, or in the first couple of weeks of a season. But no, I agree with you. I think Montreal passes the sniff test, and I think that they're, again, a team that's rebuilt quickly with good assets that were ready for some extra playing time that might not have gotten in other markets. So they're trying to earn their keep.
So one more division, if you don't mind. We got the Discover Central, or what I call right now the COVID Central, because we're looking at Florida Panthers, Carolina Hurricanes game being postponed. Dallas had to be postponed and pushed back. They haven't even played a game yet.
Undefeated,
but at least Tyler Seguin and Ben Bishop have a little bit more extra time to get healthy. Maybe they come back a little bit sooner. This, of course, is the FTB division. I don't care. I'm still going to say it just for our buddy Ray. It's the FTB division. It's Tampa Bay. It pisses me off that they're still good without Kucherov in the lineup. They are going to be the team to beat for sure.
No question.
Carolina's been talked about quite a bit. I feel like Nashville is going to be the big surprise. They are pissed off.
I think Detroit is actually my pick to surprise people. I think Detroit has some guys like Bobby Ryan who are, looking to prove themselves. The Red Wings are in a bit of a cap hothead situation for a couple of years, 3-4 years back. And I think they're finally on the other side of that. And again, a team that rebuilt through draft picks. They don't have a lot of real, tried and true 30, 40 goal scorers on that roster when you look at them. But again, if they get 2 or 3 lines clicking on a nightly basis, I think they could go somewhere. I think that Carolina, again, is someone that's interesting. They seem to have the right tools, but they haven't put it together at the right times in the seasons past. Teravainen is someone that's exciting and one of those guys that if he played in a bigger market team, he'd sell a lot more jerseys because he's definitely exciting and fun to watch and a playmaker in every aspect of the word. Chicago's in the dump, which, any of us who have friends who live in Chicago love to rub it into their faces because they were so high on themselves for, again, that.
And Chicago fans are all pissed off now. They're like, I can't believe we're down. You know what? Relax. All right.
Well, now they're all
you guys were a dynasty.
Yeah.
You guys were a dynasty. 3 cups. Just shut up and take your beating like the rest of us have while we watched you guys have an abundance of players and talent where you actually had to be like, well, we'll get rid of Teravainen, I guess, now. And who needs
Bufflin? He's good.
Winnipeg, take Bufflin. He doesn't do anything anyways anymore. So I like that you said Detroit. Bobby Ryan, he's up there and leading with goals with 4.
Yeah.
I mean, way to go, freaking Bobby Ryan. I mean, I know you have to love that. His story overall, from the Ducks to what he had to deal with, and what he had to go through to bouncing back in his career is phenomenal. Nashville, I'm looking at UC Saros to take over as a top-tier goalie. So far, so good. He's proven it.
Yeah.
I'm curious, in those dog years, in those dog months that you talk about, can he keep up?
Yep.
That's
Where
gonna be
does he go 40 games in, 50 games in on back-to-backs? And if he has to, be the only goalie in the playoffs, can he keep up? And I think, Pekka Rinne was definitely on the tail end of his career and is starting to take more of a backup role, which is definitely understandable given how long he's been in the league. But, is Saros the guy? I think that's the question that we're going to have to wait and see and kind of see where it ends up. But, again, I think COVID probably is not going to help them. I do think their fans will help them, assuming that they can have fans in.
They get fans.
Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see where they end up. Again, I think this division, there's a clear leader at the top. We're not going to name him by name. I think it's a fight amongst 4 or 5 other teams for the rest of the playoff. I mean, the Columbus Blue Jackets got hot last season with their goaltenders. Again, team that has 2 great goaltenders, probably a 1A and 1B, and a pending expansion draft with Seattle that they're going to have to deal with. And they're going to lose one of those guys for nothing unless they make a trade. So I think they might trade one of their goaltenders to someone like a, Detroit or, maybe even an Edmonton where they're looking for a new number 1. And the candidates they've tried so far are not appealing. So I think this division is going to be shaped dynamically at the trade line. And I wouldn't want to pick anyone in particular outside of that top team, but Nashville, Carolina, Detroit, Columbus. I think those are the 4 that are going to battle for really 3 different playoff spots. Dallas, if they come back, they looked strong in the playoffs last year. You can't count them out of it. And the longer that they don't play games, the more opportunity that is for guys like you said, Ben Bishop, Tyler Seguin, to get back in the mix of things and actually influence the outcome. So.
Absolutely. And we don't know what Dallas even looks like right now. I mean, let's be honest, we have 0 clue what Dallas looks like, what their young guns look like. Denis Gurianov had a great playoff, and he's expected to take a big jump this year. So we'll see what happens there. Ultimately, though, I'm still going to talk about my Florida Panthers. And did you like that media stunt? It was clever, right? We're going to pretend that we're going to trade and scratch Keith Yandle to piss him off, move him, not do his Iron Man streak, piss him off. Guess what? 2-game goal streak. Thank you very much for coming.
Yep. So, and I think he scores 10 points in the first 15 games, easily. And I don't know where he goes from there. But, if you want to talk about motivating a guy, I think threatening to take his Iron Man streak away from him on a coach's decision is a good way to do it for sure.
Yeah.
Again, not to talk about my boys, the Ducks, all the time, but unfortunately, Cogliano, who had the Iron Man streak for a long time, had it taken away from the league in a shot that didn't really look like it was worthy of a suspension. But, another Ducks alumni, George Peros, who's up at the, what do they call it? The enforcement group of
enforcement group. Let me tell you, I was like, come on, just mafia it, George. Just mafia it. You're a part of the Ducks alumni. Don't let it go. So and they were like, you got it.
Christmas list pretty quickly after that. But love a guy like Yandle who's going to grind through it all. I think you have to keep him in until he makes multiple mistakes and is a liability, which is unlikely to happen anytime soon. Or if he gets an injury or God forbid, flu or sick or something like that and misses a game that way. I think if that happens, if he does miss a game due to something out of his control, it'll be interesting to see how the coach treats that. But you got to keep him in the lineup for now when he's performing. You can't take him out.
And the reports came out that it was actually the players that went to the GM, went to the coaches and said, do not take him out.
Yeah.
I don't know where you're hearing this shit from, but he is a phenomenal teammate. He is always in the weight room. He is always working on his game. And you know what? You just pissed him off.
Yep.
If you were doing it based off of a coach's decision because you didn't think he fit the mold, what I think is shitty from my own team is that why didn't you tell him, hey, listen, we're worried about your game. We want you to do this, this, and this. You got to step up defensively in the zone. You got to whatever, or we're going to fucking scratch you.
Yeah. Well, I think he's a guy also, again, like Chara going to the Capitals, that a lot of the players see him coming in and doing the work, and it motivates some of the younger guys. And, you got a couple guys in Florida who are up and coming and still on the young sides of their career, and having a guy like Yandle who can be a leader and be that guy to set the example for them. And, Barkov and guys like that who have come through Florida in the past that are growing and continuing to be, Huberdeau now, just – yeah, exactly. I think that a guy like Yandle is going to be so key to the development of players like Huberdeau and how they become the next, kind of wave of leadership for teams like Florida that, have kind of been a revolving door for a while. And you get a guy like Yandle that comes in and kind of locks it down and is like, guys, we're in this, we're serious. We're going to, see what we can do with the skills that we have. We're going to build our team organically and see what happens. And I think they're going to see a rise in their success from that. And I think this, if it was a media stunt, I think to get the players on board with playing as a team.
Yeah, absolutely. And just get them fired up, because how else can you get fired up in this year? It's gonna be kind of tough to get going when you're playing 2-3 games in 4 days. It's gonna be a little tough to get that going and stuff. But I mean, I was looking over the point leaders just to see who was up at the top. A bunch of guys are tied with 6, and the one that jumps out to me the most is Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes is taking a huge step in his development. So I'm excited for New Jersey. A shout out to our, little honey badger of the group, Mr. J, who will probably just pop out of nowhere in the stream. Like, is he there? He's going to try to jump on now all of a sudden? Because anytime you say his name, he shows up. He's the one that pops out the most to me right now of having an excellent week. Who's a player that you see that from what you've been watching that just popped out to you?
I mean, we mentioned it earlier, Konechny in Philadelphia. He's been playing out of his mind. In Vegas, you got Mark Stone named the first captain of the Vegas Golden Knights. So he's stepping up more on the assist side than anything else. But people talk about him as a guy that's, first one in, last one out of the weight room every day. Same with off the ice, practicing behind the play and, passing with guys and just doing the small things that you need to do to be successful. So Vegas has such a plethora of talent and experience. They're extremely lucky. And I think that leads into the pending expansion draft of the Seattle Kraken, where I feel like TJ Oshie is going to be the captain of the Seattle Kraken. He's from the Seattle area, has a lot of ties there. And he's kind of one of those guys that he's rising in value, but on a team like the Capitals that has superstars like Ovechkin, that may not be supplanted by Oshie. Who do you move? How do you handle that? And I think Oshie will end up in Seattle, but as we go through the season, I think again the trade deadline this year is going to be so key in how these teams shape their future because of the playoffs, because of the shortened year, and the pending expansion draft. Where if you got 2 goalies, you got to either make a deal or you're going to lose one for nothing. So find a way to happen, and that's something that.
And the standings are going to be close. The standings are going to be so much closer than in other trade deadlines. So you may actually get not a lot of movement just based off of, I don't want to get rid of somebody because one good week and we're in. And as they say in NHL, it's not the NFL, it's not MLB, it's not fucking basketball. If you're in, you got a shot.
Yeah. And then you're more than anything else because you're going to be facing teams that you've played against so many times that to get to the Final Four, you're in most cases you're not leaving your time zone. Outside of maybe the Canadian division, but I think it's going to be a run to the end. I do think there is going to be a lot of movement at the trade deadline, but I think it's going to be interconference. I think people are going to say, I will trade, my stud goalie, my third line winger who's asking for more time that I can't give it to him to, someone who's going to make a run, who's willing to take a fourth line role for a run at the cup or something like that. That I think this will be an interesting year that I think will have more movement. It's just going to be a little bit different than years past.
For sure. Well, dude, Jacob, I fucking love doing this shit. I just like talking hockey with other people and putting it out there for the fans to watch. And if they like it, great. If not, jog on. I don't care. So right now, already it's zip. Edmonton and Toronto are in the first. I'm not sure if you're catching that game just yet.
I didn't yet. I'll flip it on now.
But I'm going to go flip it on. I'm going to get my ass home so I could watch it. But thank you so much for joining me, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Definitely.
So we'll definitely be doing this again. Once again, this is not a Hockey Market podcast. That's my boy Jacob. I'm George. Thank you so much for joining us today. And that's all I got for you, boys.
Go Ducks.
I hope you enjoyed it. Go Cats.